everybody. Make sure to join in today because I am with my OBGYN, Dr. Rosalind Jackson, and I call her Dr. Roz, and I think that's kind of like her nickname.
It is.
It's kind of like Dr. Oz.
I'm cuter.
You are cuter. You guys have to tune in today. If you want to know anything about taking care of your hormone health, this is all about you today, and I'm super excited. Dr. Rosalind Jackson, MD, is a board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist and member of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. I'm all about that. She encourages her patients to think of their mind, body, and spirit when it comes to their health. And your quest in life is important, and her purpose is to help make you feel fabulous so you can do fabulous things. Too often she said she meets patients that have been told nothing can be done to alleviate menopausal symptoms. She invites you to choose your health language. Choose to feel energized versus tired. Oh boy, this is going to be the podcast for you guys. Without further ado, want to welcome Dr. Rosalind to the show.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
So happy to have you. I'm so happy to have you in my life. My husband is happy that you're in my life.
You know, I get that a lot. Honestly.
Well, anyway, that's a whole nother story, but I am very thankful that I came to you. And how many women sit back and wait and just suffer in silence when they're going through menopause or just perimenopause or just emotional and physical symptoms in general?
You know, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that women do suffer like that. And what's even more unfortunate is when they go to their doc with particular complaints suggesting perimenopause or menopause, and nothing really gets addressed. Or they may be given an antidepressant. It's so not right. And so I just want all women to know that you can do something about this stage in your life when you feel like everything's crumbling down. You can fix that. But you have to be willing to continue to search if you're not getting good answers, and be open-minded to the possibility.
Yeah.
It's certainly not your mother's menopause. You know, you've had it's for generations. It's like there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. Fake it till you make it. I've heard all kinds of things. And so my goal is to let women know, like, hey, you don't have to suffer. We can restore your hormones back to when you were younger. And that's really what it's all about. And the key to that, not only do you feel great, it's a major, major part of anti-aging.
Well, like you said, not your mother's menopause. I think that could be the title for our show. But I remember my mom talking about my grandmother being in church, and literally, I'm sorry, you guys, sensitive ears, the blood was running down her legs, and that's how bad her cycle got right before it ended. And my mom was, when I was, explaining to her, it was like, Mom, this is kind of rough. I don't know what to do. She's telling me about my grandma, and I'm like, whoa, is that what we have to go through?
Well, that sounds crazy
to us.
It sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, quite honestly, when you talk about a woman's hormones, it's not just estrogen, and that's what I want everybody to understand. Estrogen certainly is a key factor, or one of the key hormones, but progesterone plays just as great a role, as does testosterone, your cortisol, your stress hormones, and there's other hormones. But the interesting thing about the comment you just made with the bleeding, that's a very, very common sense, meaning something's changing with your bleeding cycle. And it's usually the first thing that shows up, and the reason being progesterone is the first hormone to decrease as a woman goes through perimenopause. And that's the one that helps keep balance within the endometrial lining. So that's why you very often see irregular bleeding as one of the first signs that a woman's going through perimenopause. Now, mind you just can't chalk everything up to hormones. You have to check for other things that could cause that amount of bleeding that you just described.
Oh my gosh. Well, I went through the same exact thing, so I'm thinking it must be a little bit hereditary, the way that we lost our hormones. I don't know. But I went through the same exact thing, almost identical. I'm so much a carbon copy of my grandmother, so I did it proud. But I sought out help instead,
Good.
and I had never had experienced any type of anxiety in my life. Like I didn't even know what when people explained it, I didn't even get it. Like, why are
Right.
you anxious? And all of a sudden, I would get anxious. I would get anxious at night, and then I would get angry, and for no reason really.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't sleep, and so, oh my gosh, when I got progesterone, that was like, hello, like a
Right.
solution to the
Yeah.
sleep, to the anxiety, to all of it. It was what
Exactly.
I was missing.
Yeah, exactly. And and I'm glad that progesterone was introduced early because again, a lot of times when women think of hormone replacement therapy, they're just really talking about estrogen when you really need to also talk about progesterone. And progesterone is very much different from something called progestin. Those are fake progesterones. But we're talking about progesterone. And then when you think about a lot of the symptoms that women experience, you can point to like, oh, that's an estrogen problem or a progesterone problem, a testosterone, cortisol. So that's why it's important and why I look at all of the levels. And so that I can help address all of the symptoms that a woman has, not just hot flashes and night sweats. It's way deeper than that.
Do you find that women have to chill out just a bit? Like maybe when we start losing all of our hormones?
Well, I think it helps.
I
You know,
just
we can't chalk it up to like, oh, I'm a bitch because my hormones are off. That's not cute. But even when someone's going when they're younger and having some PMS symptoms, you're off a little bit. So maybe, just don't engage too much until this moment pass. But for a perimenopausal woman, a menopausal woman, this could be on a regular. So we do have to consciously chill out a little bit if you feel like you're snapping at people and you feel like, okay, I'm not myself. But let's get back to yourself. And you do that by let's get your hormones balanced so you can, be that wonderful you that you used to be, get her back.
now I know our cortisol levels begin to raise when we lose our hormones. And then we start to experience maybe a little excess belly fat. Can you tell us what that phenomenon is and what we can do about it?
Yeah, it's a huge complaint. And oftentimes I have women who come in and they complain of, I'm eating the same, I'm exercising, in fact, doing extra, but I still can't lose this fat, the center fat, the belly fat. And stress has a significant part to do with that. And when you think about it, the adrenal gland, which is your stress gland, that makes cortisol, also DHEA, it also regulates glucose in your body. And so that's the key. And so sugar is the beast. And when we're stressed, we're usually eating more sugar. You can chomp down a whole pack of donuts when you're stressed out and not really wanting to do that, but you do. And so when you think of like, why am I getting belly fat here? Maybe it's not always because I'm just eating a ton, but sugar regulation has a lot to do with that.
So cutting your sugar out would be a big key.
Huge. Absolutely. For so many factors. That's what increases inflammation in our bodies. And that just sets off everything, regardless of what the disease is. I mean, it could be Alzheimer's, cardiovascular, diabetes. Stress has a significant part. Sugar is the beast. Just, you got to cut it out.
And I know exercise, because this is the sisterhood of sweat, is
Right.
key. But couldn't it be also that if I am exercising and I'm like, oh, I'll take it up a notch, that isn't necessarily what I should be doing if my cortisol is high?
Oh, for sure. If you're talking about for the purpose of losing belly fat, absolutely. You have to get to the core, like what is the reason? You have to connect the dots. So you may be, going extra and cranking up the level on the treadmill or whatever you're doing and still not burning the fat. Then you have to consider, okay, what else is going on? And that's when you have to look at, not only cortisol levels, but what's going on with your gut health. Do you have
Oh, there you go.
everything's connected. Leaky gut syndrome is all connected. And I call it connecting the dots. And then I tease it out and to see like, okay, what's the problem? And come up with a plan, a solution. And when you get everything working together, then you're bound to have better results.
Well, I'm glad you brought up gut health because I think it's underlooked at a lot. And, it seems like that'd be the first thing if your gut is getting bigger, you'd look at your gut health, right? Right. So,
Absolutely. So when you
Dr. O'Hara's Probiotics is my sponsor, and I totally swear by their products. I mean, I take my probiotics daily, but I also include taking sauerkraut and, some good fermented sauerkraut that I get from, a health food store, and it's
absolutely.
refrigerated.
The gut is really where we should start. The father of medicine, Hippocrates, said, first heal thy gut for all causes of disease. Because when you think about it, when we eat, the purpose is to provide our body with nutrients that we need so that our body works well. And so when the gut gets inflamed, because we introduce so many toxins to it, we have, genetically modified foods, high sugar, processed food, it creates a problem in the gut. And patients often develop something called leaky gut, or it's a permeability problem where you get these huge toxins that now you should normally, excrete those, remove those from the body, but now it's in the bloodstream and it sets off a slew, just tons of different problems. So when it comes to gut health, I believe in the 4 R's. You actually remove the insulting agent, meaning the bad foods. You repair, replace, meaning repopulate the gut, and it's restoring gut health. And it's critical when you're managing anything, not just belly fat, or even with patients, quite honestly, if I can share this story, I watched 60 Minutes last night. And there was a horrible, it's about dementia, early onset dementia, and it led to the woman with Alzheimer's disease. And I watched this, and I watched a progression of her years and how this disease developed. And the whole point of that session was on how to prepare for end of life. But for me, just watching this, it was very, very sad because you can intervene. You don't have to get to that point. You start with recognizing there's something wrong, then what's the plan of action to slow down that progression of disease? And you start with the gut. And what does that mean? It means you start with your diet.
It means you what?
You start with your diet. Your diet's got to be clean. You got to have a good diet. You got to eliminate sugars.
Yeah.
Repopulate the gut. Probiotics. I love probiotics.
So now let's say that I do have a leaky gut. And that means I'm not getting all my nutrients too. And I'm probably tired because I'm not getting all my nutrients. How can I restore that besides eating right, besides taking probiotics? What are some other ways to restore, like to get that gut healed?
Well, with repairing the gut, one of my favorites is glutamic acid for restoring the gut. I'm also a fan of colostrum. And so these are some of the things that I use, not just what repopulating with good bacteria, that's what your probiotic does, but how you have to heal the gut also.
Yeah.
And meat is a wonderful, wonderful source to do that.
Now, what do you think? I had read also glutamine was good for healing the gut.
Yes, that's what I was just saying. Glutamine or glutamate, glutamic acid.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Yes, it's one of my favorites. Absolutely.
It's also good for muscle soreness.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I love the glutamine idea. So I have heard also from Dr. Julia Ross, if you just put, when you have a sugar craving, a little glutamine under the tongue, it would disappear within 10 minutes. So
absolutely, I've had that. I haven't used it personally, but I have told patients about that little trick.
You have to have a little chaser.
Yeah, you got to have a chaser. You have to have it available. And so you might just want to get a bottle and just stash it in your purse or something like that, because when you're having a moment, it could be anytime. So you want to make sure that it's available. Just the same as you have things in your refrigerator when you're feeling stressed and you want to go in and just eat whatever you see. Have good things in sight, so you're not grabbing the bad junk and you're just wolfing it down. And before you know, you're like, oh my God, I ate the whole thing. So just have good things in the refrigerator so that when you go there, when you're having this moment, it's good stuff.
Well, let's talk about libido, okay? Because I
Talk
think
about libido.
libido, many of us, as I mean, I'm not included in that because you took care of me and I'm good.
Good.
But I think as we start to get older, we get a little overworked, overtaxed, um, and also your hormones are diminishing. But a lot of times I feel like you can't get your brain to shut off while because you're thinking of all the things you should be doing, could be doing, and have to do. What are
Hmm.
some tips for women out there in that regard, and also things that they could do hormonally, going
Hmm.
to their doctor to ask for, tests to ask for hormones they might need?
Well, that's a wonderful question. And I always start with a saliva test in my office, and that's my ZRT. So that's something that patients can ask for. And I like that test. It uses your saliva because it gives you the free hormone that you have to work with. Versus if it's bound by a protein, then it's not working at the receptor site. But with that, you can check estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, your 4-point cortisol, and then you have some information, you have some objective data to help balance and to eliminate the subjective things that the patient complains of. But one of the things you just mentioned is when you have a racy thought, and you can't shut it down at night, you have all these thoughts going on in your head. What are some of my things that I use for that? And magnesium is one of those. It helps you sleep, but I add to that, and all of the hormones that I do are natural bioidentical, but I add, and L-theanine and magnesium, certainly these are minerals. That magnesium's a mineral, not a hormone. But the combination of L-theanine plus magnesium, I have that compounded. It's a beautiful thing. So it helps shut down that racy thought. And the magnesium, it helps you sleep. Magnesium is just, it's Epsom salt. You can do an Epsom salt bath. It's absorbed well through your skin. And so there are a lot of different things that you can use for that. And if that's something that's interfering with your libido, then you definitely want to work on that so that you can have time to be creative in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the libido, though, when we get the saliva test from you. I remember you saying this to me. This I'll never forget. You were talking about this woman that went to another doctor, and she said she never has orgasm. She was like, never, I never have one. And the doctor was like, oh, just fake it. And you were like, fake
I was
it?
devastated.
What?
I was devastated.
Absolutely not. And you took care of that.
Yeah, I was absolutely devastated by that. And in
Okay.
fact, quite honestly, I hear so many stories, and that's what inspired me to do the TED Talk that I did on The Woman You Become, because of all of these stories over my 25 years of practicing. I'm like, oh my God, and I even wrote a book on it. Rejuvenation is the name of the book. But for the patient who feels that, look, my concern's not being addressed, and I think, you probably need to find another doctor, someone who actually listens and gets and understands that, because all these things that women present with, they can and they should be addressed. Yes. But as far as libido in general, and as far as orgasms, since you mentioned that, truly about 25% of patients have reported that they do not achieve an orgasm when they're intimate with their partner. And so there are some things that we can do for that. One is the O shot. That's something I perform here in the office. Maybe you or your audience have heard about that. It's using PRP, that's platelet-rich plasma. And what that does is truly the O shot. You get a shot in the clitoris. Of course, you have to numb the clitoris before you can do that. And, and then you inject with PRP. And what that does is stimulates your growth factors, so like your stem cells, it turns it back on to get more blood flow and nerve endings to that very, very highly sensitive areas. But one of the other things I ask patients, and I've never really had anybody get offended by it, but I'm going to say it here now. When I have someone who tells me that they cannot achieve an orgasm with their mate, I ask them, can you achieve one by yourself?
Can you achieve one by yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah, because if they can, then that means there's nothing wrong. You're just not hitting the right spot, right?
And isn't a lot of it In the
Uh-huh.
brain, though?
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on because now if you're worried about like what is he thinking, how does this feel to him, then you're blocking everything that you should be getting. And so I really try to focus on that and bring it out for a woman to help her identify, what's blocking her ability to reach an orgasm.
And also just knowing what it is she needs and not being afraid to ask for it, right?
Absolutely. It's her
Yeah.
mate, right? You can ask that of your mate, and then with your doc, have that conversation. That again is part of the book that I wrote, and some questions that you can actually take in with your doc and say, like, hey, and take the book even and highlight it. Say, look, this is what Dr. Roz is saying. How can you help me with that?
Yeah, and as we start to get older, there's no need for our sex life to diminish. I mean, actually, that is the biggest, I hate to say this, but the biggest population of, sex offenders. No. I mean,
That's right.
they're getting STDs. I mean,
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot more, but I think as a woman matures and ages, you know, her sex life becomes better because at this point she knows what she likes. She can communicate that to her partner. And I think it's a wonderful time, the perimenopausal, menopausal time. She's confident in her body, that she's enjoying an even greater sex life. And so you definitely don't want to miss out on that.
right. And there's really no reason to. And I feel like that we can become younger, like we can be young as we're aging. It's just really a number, like I had Ruby Carter Pike, 71-year-old bodybuilder on the other
Oh
day,
my gosh.
and she was just talking about she was like, some people have two cars, one car becomes the antique piece because they take care of it, and the other car becomes the junk. And I think as we age, it's more and more important to really invest that time in taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head. We have to do that. My philosophy, I mean, it's our bodies, it's our lives, and you're the author of this, meaning that you're the one who's making the choices. And it's based on the choices that you make that helps to improve your health. You can have your best life. It's based on the choices that you make. And so in order to make that choice, you need to be educated or do some research or whatever to find a solution and not just give up, not just stand still. It's about enjoying your best life.
I have somebody on here asking, what probiotics would you recommend?
Well, there are so many different probiotics on the market. And so just in general, I like one that has 10 to 20 billion units in it or greater. But the key thing now with probiotics is that it should have a prebiotic associated with it. And so a probiotic, it's bacteria, right? This is about feeding your microbiota self. We are bacteria. And so it's about putting good bacteria back into your body. So a probiotic is live, it's real bacteria. And so that bacteria needs to be fed. And so that's why you want a probiotic that also has a prebiotic, because that prebiotic feeds the probiotic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually why I like the Dr. O'Hara's brand, because it is a
Yeah, I love
probiotic
this.
and a prebiotic, and it's been fermented. It's natural food, fermented for like plant food for
Yes.
3 years or more, depending on the
Yes.
strain you buy.
Yeah, I love that product.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. So it's so important for us to invest not just in our health, but our sexual health, because that's also a part of your overall health.
Absolutely, it is. And I just want to say this, that having a good, healthy sexual relationship is healthy. And it's healthy because when you introduce different germs to your body, it's a boost in your immune system. So it's actually a great thing to have a sexual partner. I'm not saying have multiple partners, but I'm just saying it's good for your health.
She's not saying don't have them. She's not saying have them. She's saying sex is good for you.
Just saying.
Well, why did you write your book, Rejuvenation? Let's dive into that.
Well, it's called Vajuvenation with the
Oh,
V or the vagina, the J.
I get it.
This book is just about, your vaginal health, everything vagina. And I thought it would be a great resource because I have so many patients who ask certain questions. And, there are women who don't have answers. And so I thought I'd write one just on the vagina. And there is a chapter in here on the vagina and hormonal health, good nutrition regarding the vagina. And so it's all about the vagina. What happens to the vagina as you age? It talks about pelvic floor defects, like if the bladder's falling down, rectum, all of these things impact the vagina. And it's just to let women know that, hey, you're normal. You're not the only one suffering from these problems. And this book provides some answers.
Now, I really have to say, it took me a bit, because I've always been the do-it-yourselfer. I did everything natural that I could possibly do until I hit 55. I got the anxiety and I hit a wall. And I was just like, something's not right. I got to fix it. Whatever's going on here. And I never saw myself as the person to be taking hormone replacement of any sort. I just figured, I'll just do it naturally, but then I discovered that there were alternative solutions. I didn't have to do the synthetic hormones. Can you explain to us what is the difference between somebody taking the synthetic hormones versus the bioidentical hormones?
Yes. Well, bioidentical hormones is implying natural hormone therapy. And what does that mean? It means it's made from natural sources and like the yam. But what it means, the chemistry behind it, the structure, the physical structure is exactly like the structure that we produce, like our estrogen or progesterone. Versus synthetic, it's not. And even though Premarin's made from horse urine, some would say, well, that's natural, but it doesn't mimic the structure of the hormone in our body. And so that's the difference. And so therefore, it's not attaching to the receptors the same way. It's not having the same effect.
Okay, so what about, because I know sometimes people are afraid to take any sort of hormones, and I know they have to, you need to be monitored, you've got to check with your doctor because it can be cancer causing if you're getting too much of something. How much less risk? Is there less of a risk from bioidentical testosterone versus the synthetic?
Well, first of all, there is no synthetic testosterone that's available for women. There used to be something in the market called Estrotest that's no longer available.
Okay.
So it's only the bioidentical testosterone that's available. But as far as breast cancer risk and hormone replacement therapy, that's been a big area of not necessarily controversy, because right now we're very clear and knowing that the natural bioidentical hormones are not causing breast cancer. In general, what we're saying that's causing breast cancer is stress and sugar. The combination is just, it sets off a slew of reactions in our body. And so now, are there patients where hormone replacement therapy is contraindicated? Yes, there is. And those are patients who already have a history of breast cancer. It's contraindicated to give that woman hormone replacement therapy. However, there has been some studies that say after 20 years, it's okay to do that. Now, one of the interesting tests that's available now, and I do it quite often, is like when a woman puts estrogen in her body, how am I breaking it down? How is she breaking it down? And the metabolites, because it's a certain metabolite of the estrogen. If it's going to go down the cancer route, that's where it's coming from. And so how do you alleviate these bad metabolites? It's through detoxing. So that's why antioxidants and all of that and detoxification it's important. And so my point in saying all of that, you have to individualize the care for a patient. When you talk about hormone replacement therapy, there's a science behind it, and it's very, very personalized. And so, and that's my key. I provide personalized medicine depending on what's going on with a particular patient, what kind of genes does she have, what she's born with, and there's other life factors that you have to consider when you're talking about overall breast health.
Well, yeah, I can certainly see what you're saying. It definitely is something that has to be individual. And I would also say to women out there, don't get lazy with this, because it's well worth going to the doctor and working out a solution. And I know for myself, going to Dr. Roz, the birds sing after I see her. I'm not kidding. It's like the sky is bluer, and so it's well worth the trip and the investment in yourself. Now, I know I've been talking about women, and I know Dr. Roz is a busy lady, but I can't let this go. I have to at least ask this question. What
Yes.
about men? Because it isn't just women that, begin to lose libido and all of that. What are some things men can do to take care of their hormonal health?
Absolutely. Women go through menopause and guys go through andropause when their testosterone level goes down. And I'm glad you mentioned this. I've actually had women bring in their husbands, like, hey, you've taken care of me. Can you fix my husband? And I do. But it's very, very important. Testosterone is a wonderful thing for men. It's good for their cardiac health. It's good for their mood, just overall health. Testosterone is wonderful for the guy who has diabetes or even cardiovascular disease. Testosterone is a wonderful, wonderful hormone for them. And so I encourage men to have their testosterone levels checked. And with that, making sure that you're having your PSA checked, your prostate. And, I'm glad you brought this up again because it is very, very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because they're probably going to ignore it a little bit more than we do. Although, if they found out there was a solution, they'd be on it.
I think so too. I think so too, because it affects so much. It's not just their desire or erectile dysfunction, it's their mood. They don't sleep as well. Their muscles get soft. They're depressed. And so there's a lot of reasons for guys to be treated with testosterone. Men need estrogen too. Testosterone, not as much as we do. I mean, testosterone in your body converts to estrogen. But if you're getting too much estrogen, and usually can tell that clinically, guys, they may have man boobs. There's something that you can do about that because you want to lower that. And so that's why it's important for a guy also to have his hormone levels checked to make sure there's not an imbalance. So there's so many factors. Yeah, it's a great question.
Don't you think that some of the people out there are like, when they're depressed, like male or female, they don't realize, like, they're getting misdiagnosed and they're getting put on Prozac and all these things, and a lot of times it's just hormonal.
Absolutely. It's hormonal. And one of the interesting things, gut health is important. Serotonin, that's a hormone predominantly produced in your gut.
Yeah.
And patients are being put on antidepressants. What do antidepressants do? They increase serotonin level. And so when you just go back, instead of giving a patient a medication to keep serotonin around, what do we do to improve their own production of it? And so it all again points to your gut health. The majority of serotonin in our body is produced in our gut. We don't think of it as that way, but the gut is a very, very critical part of your overall health. You have to have a healthy gut.
Wow. I really, truly, I love that. And one of the things that you said to me that made the biggest difference in, I think, my turnaround once I hit menopause, because it wasn't just the anxiety. I'm a fitness person. I'm used to being able to whip this body into any kind of shape I want. And all of a sudden I was pulling out all the stops and I'm like, what the hell is happening
Right.
here? And I thought, am I going to have to stand up competing and rub my menopause belly and be like, look at this, and
you just had to restore things back to when you were younger. That's what it is. It's restoring.
And what the biggest thing you told me to do that really made a difference, besides everything else, of course, coming and getting the hormones, was to do a detox.
Critical.
It was like a reset.
It is a reset. It's cleaning all the toxins out of your body. It's recommended every 6 months.
I had the best abs on stage after that, after I did that detox.
Great. I mean, toxins in our body live in our liver. Our liver is the main organ for detoxing. But metabolites, when I say metabolites, I'm referring to toxins also in our fat cells. And so you got to clean that out. And you do that with detoxing.
Wow.
That
Well, you guys, I cannot keep her any longer. I've already kept her longer than I was supposed to, and she's actually seeing patients today. So I just want to acknowledge you so, so much for
oh,
your contribution to all women out there and your heart, how you want us to all feel the way that we can feel to our best health and our best sexual selves. And I just totally just want to let you know you have made such a difference in my life personally. And anybody out there, where can they reach you on social media and also come visit you? Where's your practice?
well, my office is in Miamisburg, Ohio. Okay. And Ohio, why Ohio? It's the birthplace of aviation. Everything starts here in Ohio. But my website, it is drrozmd.com. And you can learn more information about me and some of the things that we do here in the office. And it's all about your life and it's all about choices that you make. So thank you so much for this opportunity. This is awesome for you to invite me to even share more to women. This is what I love to do. And I'm very grateful to be able to provide this information. And thank you, Linda.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks, everyone. Make sure to leave your questions below and we will address them. And where can they get your book?
On Amazon. It's
Oh,
called
okay. It's
Nation.
out. Okay, cool.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, everybody run out and get a copy and support Dr. Roz. Thanks, everybody. Oh my gosh. There it is again. Rejuvenation.
I
That
love
is
it.
the
My
word
word.
of the day, of the
Yeah.
decade.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody. Thanks for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat.